Ronde is the premier amusement park in Quebec, located right in the heart of Montreal on Ile Sainte-Hélène. You're going to have to excuse my French pronunciation for this review, as I'm not a fluent French speaker. As of 2020, Ronde features 8 roller coasters, with one more being added in 2021. Alright, so just while editing this, I should probably mention that Vipère got delayed until possibly 2021. It might be cancelled for all we know. But, yeah, whenever I say new coaster in 2021, that's not true anymore. Ronde also holds more than half of the roller coasters in Quebec, and I was lucky to be able to get on all but 3 of them. I was able to spend nearly 3 days here in the summer of 2020, and this is my review of this incredibly underrated park. Here are the timestamps if you're looking for some aspect in particular, as this will be a very long video. Starting off before you're even in the park is getting there. Getting to the parking lot is an interesting ordeal, since the island Ronde is located on has a hill in the middle, as well as a larger amount of other attractions. It was kind of confusing the first time, but it later became easier to get to the park. Their parking lot is also set up weirdly. Unlike other parking lots, which are mainly big squares, Ronde's is a long, skinny lot. There is a second parking lot in the back near Goliath, but it was closed when we went and it looked very overgrown, with shoddily painted helipads, which was pretty interesting. Depending on where you park, you will have anywhere from a 30 to 20 minute walk to the front entrance. Once you reach the front entrance, you're greeted to a large amount of switchbacks. This year is obviously different to any other year, so I don't know what the entrance was like before or what the entrance will be like after, but I had mixed experiences. The first day we arrived at around 4 p.m, and the queue to enter the park was entirely full. It was probably around a 30-minute wait and was very poorly organized. However, the next 2 days it was completely empty. I got a season pass for around $60, which was just over the same price as a single-day ticket. It was pretty easy to get into the park when you're greeted to a nice little centerpiece, which I actually don't know what it's supposed to be. Comment down below if you know what it is, because I have no idea. Ronde was my first Six Flags park, and it was a very nice looking park. It didn't have advertisements everywhere, and it definitely felt different from every other park I've been to. Quebec also has a language law that makes it so Six Flags can't use the DC or Looney Tunes character / theming. There was some good theming in the Fort Edmonton area as well. Unfortunately, there are no rides in this area, so most people won't walk through here. Dolphin Lake, the lake that the park circles, is a very nice looking centerpiece. Their SNS space shot, Orbit, stands nicely jutting into it, as well as their SLC Ednor hanging over the side of the lake. There was a lot of nice tree covering and foliage all throughout the park, and it didn't really feel like a big chain park a lot of the time. The area over by Le Monster is pretty run down, however, and was definitely the low point aesthetics-wise. There was also a surprising amount of theming over by Ednor. All of the buildings had a nice architectural style to them, and there was even some theming in the queue line, at least in the entrance building. The first building had about as much theming as pre-Orion Cedar Fair theming, meaning theming on par with Yukon Striker and Mystic Timbers. This segment is where Ronde faces its harshest criticism from me. I was here for 3 days, and I ate here for 2 of those days. The first day I was there had been pretty bad already, but it was concluded with the worst meal I've ever had in an amusement park. I got chicken tenders, fries, and a Sprite from Poulet etc. It was nearing the end of the night, and there were 3 people ahead of me in line. Unfortunately, it was a very disappointing 20-minute wait, only to be met with burnt chicken tenders and undercooked fries. On top of that, the drink fountain was out of ice and the Sprite was very warm. This was a very disappointing meal, and it was the worst way to end off an already pretty bad first day. On the second day, I had pizza and fries at the pizza place near Goliath that I forgot the name of. The fries were very good, but the pizza was pretty undercooked. Ronde is the only Six Flags park I've been to, so I don't know how the rest of the chain stacks up, but the food here was pretty poor. However, they did have really good popcorn near the front entrance, and Dippin' Dots, and I mean, who doesn't love Dippin' Dots? Their merchandise was also unfortunately pretty lackluster. I don't know if it was just because of this year, but I was disappointed by the merch they had. They didn't have any graphic t-shirts of any of the rides, nor did they have any postcards, which I love to collect. Their magnet collection was also pretty disappointing, but I did get 2 neat little magnets. Now we're getting to the stuff you probably clicked on this video for, the rides. I didn't go on many flat rides, but I did see that they had a good amount of fun ones. Their bumper cars were very fun and pretty unique. Ronde has 4 standout flat rides in my opinion. The first of which, Disco Ronde, is a Huss Breakdance 1, an incredibly fun model and one of my favorite flat rides. The next is Orbit, their SNS space shot, which was pretty exciting and had a very good kick on the way back down. Titan is their Zamperla Giant Discovery, and it's easily my favorite frisbee/discovery that I've ridden. The final of the 4 big flat rides is Demon, one of the most surprising and unique flat rides I've experienced. This Mondial rollover is basically a topspin on steroids. It features some very strong hang time and some very whippy flips. Ronde also has some other less notable flats, like their Chair Swing, Zamperla Nitro, Zamperla Hawk 24, and Funtime Starflyer. I didn't get to ride most of their flats, but I think that Ronde has one of the strongest flat ride collections I've experienced, only rivaled by Canada's Wonderland. Ronde has the second most roller coasters in Canada, with 8 currently standing roller coasters, soon to be 9 with Vipère, their relocated Intamin Zaxspin. During the 2020 season, 2 of their roller coasters were down, and so I unfortunately didn't get to ride either. Dragon, their Intamin indoor coaster, and Monster, their interesting PTC dueling Woody. I was looking forward to riding both of these, but it makes sense why Dragon was closed. I also didn't ride the kiddie coaster, La Marche du Mille Pattes, but it looked like a fun ride. As for the other 5, it's a very mixed bag. Ednor is definitely the worst in the park. It didn't have unbearable headbanging like Flight Deck, but it compressed and bashed my shoulders around a lot and was a very painful ride. Le Boomerang is your average Vekoma boomerang, nothing too noteworthy here. Their Wild Mouse, Toboggan Nordique, had some incredible laterals on it. I ended up watching it for nearly 15 minutes after I got off, and I noticed that the US cars run a lot faster than any of the other cars, which is probably why I got such a fun ride. As for the last 2, they're both amazing. In the future, I plan to have full reviews on both Goliath and Le Vampire. Goliath is a B&M mini hyper that was a very fun and whippy ride, and Le Vampire is a B&M Batman the Ride clone that had some very intense moments and kept the best pace I've seen on a roller coaster. In 2021, Ronde is receiving Vipère, an Intamin Zaxspin relocated from Six Flags Magic Mountain, where it was known as Green Lantern First Flight. This ride was hated by most of the people who rode it, but hopefully Six Flags will buy new trains that don't have to comply with California state laws. Ronde has a pretty average roller coaster collection, some filler roller coasters to bolster the lineup, but an amazing top 2 which are some of my favorites of all time. This segment is just going to include everything else I didn't include in the other sections, stuff that doesn't really fit into any of the other categories. Getting around the park can be kinda difficult. The mini rail was closed for the 2020 season, so I had to walk all around the park. This can be kind of annoying, as Goliath and Le Vampire are on completely opposite sides of the park, and it's around a 20 to 30 minute walk from the front of the park to the back. There's no path connecting the dead ends over by Le Vampire and Dragon, but that kind of makes sense as it would cut through the road to get to the back parking lot and the fireworks festival area. The operations here were pretty average. On all coasters they had every other row closed, but the lines still moved fairly quickly. The longest I had to wait was around 30 minutes for Le Boomerang. On Saturday and Sunday, they were running 2 trains on Le Vampire and Goliath, but on Monday they were only running 1 on Le Vampire. Ednor only had 1 train, not even an extra one on the transfer track, which was pretty interesting. Fortunately, the language barrier wasn't a large issue for me. I can somewhat speak French, but I have a hard time understanding French. Luckily, all of the staff spoke both French and English very well, which I have a lot of respect for as it's hard to be fluent in 2 languages. There were a lot of seagulls and other birds around here, more so than any other park except for Cedar Point's. These ones definitely weren't as big of jerks as the Cedar Point seagulls, but they were still pretty obnoxious. Something weird I really enjoy about parks are the ride signs, and Ronde has some really nice ones. Ednor's is very nice looking and kind of reminds me of Invader. Titan also has a very nice looking sign and a really cool looking statue. COVID procedures were okay. The park's guidelines and protocols were good, but their enforcement of the guidelines was pretty poor. Unfortunately, but understandably, a few rides I was looking forward to were closed. The mini rail, Monster, Dragon, their observation tower, swinging ship, and really interesting water battle rides were all closed for this season. In conclusion, Ronde is a pretty good park. It does have some areas where it lacks, mainly the food, but also some areas of the park don't look that good. However, those few things don't make all of the hate this park gets deserved. Ronde has an incredible top 2 and some other very fun coasters in their lineup. With them getting Vipère in 2021, Ronde will finally have a new coaster, which is something a lot of other parks can't say. Canada doesn't have that many great parks, basically just this and Canada's Wonderland. I'm excited to see what's in the future for Ronde, and I highly suggest it if you're ever near the Montreal area. If you visited Ronde, I would love to hear your thoughts on this park in the comment section down below. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you all in the next video.